Greetings and welcome back to room 303 in our chats with Emily, as we are calling our readings through the poetry of Emily Dickinson. We are using the Thomas H. Johnson volume, and we turn now to poem 543, I Fear a Man of Frugal Speech. One more time, we will make the argument, this is why we call our series Chats with Emily. Now, our assumption is that you've been following our stuff at learnstrong.net. Down that left-hand side, Chats with Emily is our playlist. I'm hoping that you worked through our set of introductory comments as well as the preceding 542 poems. We just finished with 542. I had no cause to be awake. Now, the scholar Miller has pointed out that one of the things that makes Emily's stuff so impressive is what she references as compression. That is to say, her language is so compressed. She says there's three effects, and she treats this poem as part of this discussion. The first of these effects of compression is what she calls the ambiguity and multiplicity of meaning in the poem. She allowing her to make veiled statements that might be understood as unpopular. The second of this compression is an ability to conceal in some ways the strength of her poetry, and she references Eric Arbrook, who makes the point that Emily's reading of the King James Version of the Bible played a very similar game, where the poet is able to conceal in some ways the power and the strength. This concealed strength, Miller goes on, can threaten somehow the silence that is a part of this. And in fact, we'll use this very poem of 543. And then finally, just to finish Miller, she says that compression is a continuation of an implicit grandeur, she calls it, and suggests untold profundity, as the Sibyl's oracles, for example, or cryptic revelations seem to hold great meaning. And I think there's something profound in this insight. I'd like you to pay attention to the five I's of this poem as well. Some have said this is one of Emily's most personal poems. She says it this way: I fear a man of frugal speech. I fear a silent man. Haranguer I can overtake, or babbler entertain. But he who weigheth, while the rest expend their furthest pound, of this man I am wary. I fear that he is grand. Now, there's always been debate about who she's specifically talking about. Is she talking about Wordsworth? Is she talking about Sam Boyles? Is she talking about several preachers in her life that had that profound capacity of oration? It isn't clear, but notice she's making a distinction. And notice as well, she tells us by fear here, it almost seems that she's not so much afraid as more attracted, we might say. Or dare we say it, respect. I respect, for example, a man of frugal speech. And again, of course, we call our series Chats with Emily for a number of reasons. This is one of them. I fear a silent man. In other words, somebody who doesn't always say exactly what they think. She then, for the only time in her poetry, uses haranguer, of course, aggressive speech. She says, that I can overtake. By all accounts, from what we understand in the letters of others, Emily was quite a conversationalist. So apparently she was pretty good at having a back and forth. She says, I'm not too worried. Or she uses the word babbler. She says, I can always entertain a babbler. By the way, you'll remember babbler from 468 and 408. When we get to 626, she'll play the game again. Only God detect the sorrow, only God the Jehovah's are no babblers unto God. God the Son confided, still secure. God the Spirit's honor just as sure. And when we get to 1748, at the very end of our study, the reticent volcano keeps his never slumbering plan. Confided are his projects pink to no precarious man. If nature will not tell the tale Jehovah told to her, can human nature not survive without a listener? Admonished by her buckled lips, let every babbler be. The only secret people keep is immortality. Now, this idea of I can put up with aggressive speech or even the babbler, but she comes back to it. He who weigheth. Now, obviously, a number of passages from the biblical book of Proverbs comes to mind here. But he who weigheth, while the rest expend their furthest pound. In other words, the person who doesn't talk all the time. Of this man I'm wary. I fear that he is grand. Now again, her use of the word fear may be more like in the biblical connotation of as in to respect. When we get to poem 675, we're going to come back to this poem again, and I think there's some power in our coming back to this. Essential oils are wrung, the attar from the rose be not expressed by suns alone. It is the gift of screws. The general rose decay, but this in lady's drawer makes summer when the lady lie in ceaseless rosemary. And then when we get to poem 1146, we'll come back again to our study of this poem. When Etna basks and purrs, Naples is more afraid than when she shows her garnet tooth. Security is loud. The point here, I think, is that, as one scholar has commented, still waters run deep for Emily. And I think she is mirroring what she herself understands about herself. In other words, I would prefer to not say everything that I feel all the time. I love the 5 I's of this poem. It is a very personal poem. At 3A, we mentioned 1748. We're going to have to come back to this poem when we study that. Finally, at 3B, what kind of speaker do you fear? And what kind of speaker are you? And I hope that you're enjoying our chats with Emily. Thank you.